Hi there, thanks for clicking on the Akron News Now update today. I'm Lindsay McCoy. No criminal charges in the death of a Bookdale High School student and a personal account from the chambers where the death penalty takes place. We will talk with AkronNewsNow.com's Chris Kepler about his experience in watching a Cuyahoga Falls man be put to death. But in our first story, after he was removed from life support earlier this week, a local Marine has died from a gunshot wound that he sustained in Afghanistan last week. Now, Marine Sergeant Robert Gilbert, a Revere High School graduate, 2000, died last night. He was removed from life support earlier this week, and Richfield Police Chief Dale Cantor says that he learned the information in an email from the Marine's father. Tuesday was his birthday. He would turn 28. WONE WQMX, along with AkronNewsNow.com, mistakenly reported that Sergeant Gilbert had passed away Tuesday morning, and we immediately retracted and corrected that story. But we do sincerely apologize to the family and friends for our reporting error. In our next story, an upbeat speech given by Summit County Executive Russ Pry during his annual State of the County address was heard live on 1590 WAKR, and it was streaming on WAKR News Now. Now, of course, the economy was the topic of conversation, and as far as the 2010 budget is concerned, the county has $7 million of designated one-time money funds, and officials are going to be able to be vigilant in monitoring those expenses. Pry estimates that we could see a shortage of funds in the near future.
In 2011, I am told that we may need to close a gap of at least $8.4 million, and then in 2012, we may need to cut an additional $4 million to balance our budgets.
Joining us today is Akron News Now's Chris Kepler. He was selected to witness the execution of Lawrence Reynolds on Tuesday. Chris joins me now to talk a little bit more about what it was like to be there for the execution. And Chris, just explain, you were there, first person. What was it like?
It is kind of an intimidating environment. You're in a fairly small room. It's kind of dark. There's a couple of smaller rooms that are separated by a partition. And the witnesses for the victim sit on one side, the witnesses for the inmate are on the other side. And then there's a glass wall, basically, separating you from the inmate. I was maybe, I'm going to say about 8, maybe 10 feet away from the execution table itself. We watch on closed-circuit television when they're preparing his arms, putting the stents in his arms, so that they can, when they bring him into the room, they can then, insert the tubes and dose it up.
What was it like as the process was happening? You got to hear him say his final words.
His final words, which basically said that the system is flawed, and he said, "Stop the madness." And the witnesses for the victim, for Mrs. Foster, they kind of balked at that. They didn't care for what he had to say. But it's very quiet throughout the process. Most people aren't talking at all. You can literally hear stomachs growling. You can hear a pin drop, that sort of thing. It's very, very quiet. It only takes a few minutes, but it seems like a long time when you're standing there. And because even if you are pro-death penalty, even if you believe this man deserved to die, you're still watching a human life slipping away. So no matter how you feel, it's very serious. It's not the kind of atmosphere where you'd be joking around or making light of anything.
Was it hard to report afterwards after seeing that happen?
I don't think it was so much hard to report. I happened to have witnessed another execution about 1.5 years ago. I think that one was a little bit harder for me just because it was a new experience. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. Seeing it in person was a little bit different than the prep that I had been given ahead of time. Yeah. So this one maybe was a little bit easier. I think there was a little bit less pressure as a pool reporter, just because there really wasn't quite as much interest, I don't think, in this execution as there has been in some of the other recent ones.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you for joining us and just giving us this first-person experience. Very interesting. And we have more coverage on AkronNewsNow.com for the execution of Lawrence Reynolds. He's the Cuyahoga Falls neighbor convicted of murdering his neighbor not too long ago, back in the 90s. Now, in our next story, Talmadge will soon have a new leader taking the reins. Mayor Chris Grimm says he plans to resign in a few weeks because he's worn out from the political disagreements in the local suburb.
People get mad when you're cutting down trees because you're putting a roundabout in, or people get mad at you because you're eliminating programming, and you're doing it because it's what's best for the overall community. But let me tell you, it really wears on you after a while.
Grimm plans to take over as deputy clerk for the city. And as we first told you Monday, Copley police plan to file no criminal charges, in the death of 18-year-old Bookdale High School student Ashley Quarterman. Copley Police Chief Michael Meyer says Quarterman walked away from her friends near the Econo Lodge Motel on Rothrock Road the night of February 12th, and that's after her friends argued with her about trying to get her to drive her car after having a few drinks with them. Meyer says poor judgment in this case does not warrant any criminal charges. The Summit County Medical Examiner's Office has yet to rule on the cause of death, but she was found to have no drugs in her system, just a high level of alcohol. And it will cost college students more cash to live on campus at Kent State University starting in the fall semester. KSU is raising room and board rates by roughly 5.5% effective with the 2010 semester in the fall. The university says even with the hike, the prices are still among the lowest for Ohio's residential campuses. Officials say the money will be used to offset additional rising costs for maintenance and repairs, utilities, food, while still keeping the rates down and affordable for students. Let's take a look at our local forecast today. Highs in the 60s, another day of sunshine. Let's take a look at our local forecast today. Highs in the 60s, another day of sunshine. Looks like a high of 61 degrees today, 62 tomorrow. And as we take a look at our next 5 days, we do have highs in the 60s as we get to the weekend, though. Looks like Saturday night into Friday, we'll dip into 55 with a chance for showers. Continue to follow AkronNewsNow.com for the latest local news, for news online, on demand now. And don't forget, you can also follow our latest news updates on Facebook and Twitter, too. For AkronNewsNow.com, I'm Lindsay McCoy.